Planet
British.
Religion, science, and coexistence. Two things very different, but could create something beautiful. But back then, you were either a believer or you were a non-believer. There was no in-between, there was no gray area, there was no I'm a little bit of this or I'm a little bit of that. You were either a believer or not. And it's easy knowing why. These people worked day in, day out. And by praying to God, by saying, I would really use these great crops. If I could just have beautiful crops this summer, that would be great. And He gives them to you. Why not believe in Him? Or you could listen to fate and let fate do all the work. Something you have no control over and no communication with. Religion was like that back then. But later on, in the early stages of science, it was way more progressive than you could ever think of. They were quite literally learning things every single day. A form of science, the first form, was astronomy. The science of looking to what's out there in space and beyond. Then you had philosophers, people who tried to dip their toes in science and tried to really figure out the meaning behind it, like Aristotle. But when people bring up science and religion in the same conversation, what do you think would happen? Would there be disagreement? Would there be curses? Would there be fists thrown at each other? What would you think would happen? And why would that be? Take the beginning of humans, for example. Religion would argue that it began with Adam and Eve, two beings created to serve God, only to disobey His wishes and eat the forbidden fruit, giving them sin. Then there's science, that would eventually conduct research on the theory of Darwinism and our evolution from primates to human beings.
The problem is that they both portray the same historical events in different ways. On one side, we were simply made by God and given other traits by Him. But on the other, we evolved to become what we are and are given the traits through this process. These two ideas are plausible but completely contradict each other.
To both parties, the opposite side is almost always wrong, because it isn't religiously or scientifically possible or factual. To most scientists, Moses was probably over-exaggerated to sound like he was God's messenger. That he sent plagues over to Egypt and split the seas. To Christian, a person who has died and came back, not seeing God, Jesus, or any of the holy deities that have walked the path of heaven, that would be considered nonsense. It goes both ways, no matter what religion you are a part of, Christianity, Taoism, or even Hinduism. Without any more research and or evidence, we would have just ended it here. But there have been signs in the past of scientific and religious collaboration. Take, for instance, the scientific revolution.
Muslims were able to translate the Greek texts into Arabic to study them, and later into Latin so that they could be studied in Europe. The scientific revolution was also influenced by Christian studies of the text, most famously the work of Thomas Aquinas, which should use Aristotle's ideas to justify the existence of God and many other Christian ideas. Signs of collaboration. Before we can have an image of what if, we need to observe if coexistence is possible or if it has happened in the past. Today, many religious denominations accept that biological evolution has produced a diversity of living things over billions of years of Earth's history. So how can the two coexist simultaneously? The chances of a planet turning out the way Earth does, the chances of a planet turning out the way Earth has are incredibly slim, so it is possible that a godlike entity put it into motion and has only observed it since. With this belief, religion can exist as an explanation for what science can't yet explain.
Lamp oil, rope.
Okay, I just gotta get something off of my chest. I did not like making this video. I did not like it. I did not. At all. Personally, it was bland. I felt that it was way too bland. I did not like it. I did not like making it so that it was just so... It didn't have any spice. It didn't have any of my touch. My personal, awesome touch to it. It didn't have any of that. It was just, oh, let's talk to the slide with music. Fun. But this is where the good part gets in. I made a version 2. I made a second version to this. You heard that right. There is another version on my YouTube right now that I made just for me. Just for you. Because I am that generous. And to be honest, after making this video, I was quite bored. So if you want to see a better, well-put version of this, that I couldn't upload to my school because I felt like it was stretching the boundaries, you can go watch that. You don't have to. But I would recommend the other video rather than this one. Because honestly, this kind of sucked. That's all. Whatever. This is the end.